That's the outro. Overstimulation.
Yes.
I never knew the darkness that lingered
That
in my
scared
family
me.
until I was an adult. Growing up,
Which one?
we were a
Who
close-knit family. My mom,
we
my
watching?
aunt,
Is it
my
somebody
cousin
new?
Jessica, and me. But when it came to my grandparents, especially on my mom's side, there was no
Oh,
real
shit.
connection.
Okay.
For me, the only grandparents
Okay,
I
wait.
knew were on my dad's side. My mom's
Brain
parents were
power.
more like strangers, distant and removed from our lives. It wasn't until my grandfather passed that we were forced to confront the past. That's when the secrets began to unravel. Basically, my mom and my aunt, despite having two parents, grew up in an orphanage. It wasn't until years later, after my grandfather passed, that I had my first encounter with my grandmother. Even then, it was never a warm, familial connection. It was always cold, distant, something done out of obligation rather than love. Jessica and I grew up together, and we'd often speculate about why our mothers grew up separated from their parents. Sometimes we'd muster
Jessica.
up the courage to ask them, but they always told us that some things were better left buried, and that there was no need to talk about it. To a child,
What?
it's
Oh.
just an invitation to dig deeper.
Exactly.
Back then, we never imagined it could be something truly awful. We were kids, and our ability to comprehend such darkness wasn't developed yet. Over the years, we made a few attempts to ask more questions, but as we got older and found new interests, the mystery started to seem less important. Maybe their parents were just bad people, especially our grandfather. That all changed when my grandmother died, and suddenly, the urge to investigate came back. It all began when my Aunt Carol insisted on cleaning out Grandma's old house before it was sold. No one had been inside that house for years, and I was curious about the dust-covered secrets it held. I volunteered to help, along with Jessica. We had waited years for this moment. As morbid as it might sound, our grandmother had never really been a grandmother to us. She was just the woman who gave birth to our mothers. There was no emotional attachment. We spent the entire afternoon sorting through boxes, going through old family photos, letters, and relics from a past none of us really knew. In the attic, we found a locked chest buried under piles of quilts and old furniture. It was heavy, clearly untouched for decades. Since Aunt Carol wasn't around to supervise us, as she and my mom had agreed, Jessica and I decided to open it ourselves. This was our chance to finally uncover something.
Excuse me.
I remember the creak of the chest as we pried it open, and the musty air that escaped. Inside were old photo albums, some newspaper clippings, and a few leather-bound notebooks. But what really caught my attention was a manila folder hidden beneath everything else. I opened it, and found police reports. Old ones.
Oh shit.
As I picked them up, I had a sinking feeling, and suddenly, discovering what
you think happened?
Either this little motherfucker is a kidnapped victim, or the granny is a serial killer.
A serial killer? Goddamn.
You never know. The bitch was secretive. The bitch was secretive. She killing people.
Or was it? It was the grandfather.
Like that damn it's called phone game. And murking nigga.
Let's find out. You said it's the grandfather?
happened in my mother's childhood didn't seem so appealing. Now, it felt real and terrifying, especially since it involved the police. The reports detailed a missing child, a boy named Peter,
I
Mm.
was
who
just trying to
disappeared in
say
the summer of
that.
1962, 4 months after my mother and my aunt were born. The photo attached looked oddly familiar. Then it hit me. The boy was my uncle, the brother my mother had never mentioned. I showed Jessica, but she seemed more intrigued than shocked. It was strange how calm she was, especially when I noticed how tense the rest of the family had been since we started clearing the house. Then, she admitted she had already suspected there was a third sibling. Her mom had mentioned it in passing, almost like a half-remembered dream. Jessica had never thought it was real until that moment, which is why she hadn't told me before. I kept flipping through the papers. The reports painted a grim picture. Peter vanished without a trace from the family home. But there was no mention of an investigation, no follow-up reports. It was like the case had been closed too quickly, as if someone had pulled strings
Kill the
to make
boy.
it disappear. That night, I confronted my mom. She tried to brush it off, saying Peter had run away and it was too painful to talk about. But I didn't believe her. There was something in her eyes. Fear I had never seen before. That's when I knew there was more to
Somebody
the
murdered
story.
that boy.
Something darker.
Mm-hmm.
Determined to find the
And,
truth, I stayed up
and
late
got
reading
away.
through the notebooks we found in the chest. They were my grandmother's journals, and no one but Jessica and I knew they existed. At first, the entries were normal. Family events, gossip, little notes about the weather. Honestly, my grandmother had a talent for writing, and it felt like I was living her experiences as I read. For the first time in my life, I felt connected to her. But then, around the time Peter went missing, the entries took a disturbing turn. Grandma wrote about Peter's bad behavior, how he would act out and cause trouble around the house. She was
You killed him.
terrified of the harsh punishments my grandfather would dole out, especially to such a young child. After that, the journal entries became more sporadic. I kept flipping through until I found a loose page, torn from the diary. It was filled with writing, and by the time I finished reading, I knew everything. One day, when my grandparents came home, they found my Uncle Peter rummaging through my grandfather's nightstand. My grandfather was so furious that he hit Peter. Being so small, he
didn't
fell
kill-
back and hit his head.
I told
He
you.
never woke up.
Serial killer.
Without shedding a tear or showing any remorse, my grandfather concocted a plan. They would tell everyone the boy was a troublemaker and had run away from home. To make his story more believable, he called in an old childhood friend who had since become a police officer. My grandmother had
Wow.
always despised him.
Wow.
She knew he was corrupt, violent, and power-hungry. A terrible
Damn.
combination for a cop. When he arrived and saw Peter, he helped my grandfather cover it up. They got rid of the body, and his cop
That's that
friend wrote
small
the
town
report
shit
stating
too.
Peter had
They
run
do that
away.
shit in small towns.
When I finished reading, I was consumed with rage. Peter was only 6 years old when it happened.
Oh.
And no one,
Damn.
except my
Baby.
grandmother, seemed to care. She was devastated, and having just given
That was
birth
her
to my mom
brother.
and aunt, she spiraled into a deep depression. My grandfather, not wanting to deal with the kids, claimed his wife was mentally unstable and that they couldn't raise the children.
That's what a
So
lot
I
of
ended up
men
in an
did.
orphanage.
A lot of men
My
did that.
grandfather lived the rest of his life in peace, while my grandmother was tormented by what happened. I'm not sure how much my mom and aunt know.
Damn.
If they had discovered those letters,
Dude,
they might have seen their mother in a different light.
he didn't tell them?
No, he got rid of the kids after he said that his wife is unfit. They took all the
Yeah.
kids and they
Yeah.
got to the orphanage.
And that's where we got them railroad kids from, the train car kids, because they parents put them in the orphanage, and then they was on the railroads and they got put in the workshops, like on Assassin's Creed Liberation. Put them
That's
children away.
crazy.
But one thing they
And
were
he
right.
just did whatever he wanted to do. Goddamn,
Mm.
I want seconds. That shit was kind of good.
Is that some things are better left in the past. If my
Hell
grandfather was still
no.
alive, tormented by what happened. I'm not sure how much my mom and aunt know. If they had discovered those letters, they might have seen their mother in a different light. But one thing they were right, is that some things are better left in the past.
Not that.
If my grandfather were still alive, I'd make sure he paid for what he did. The same goes for his corrupt cop friend. But they're both long dead. And with them, so is my grandmother. Despite
And that's
their
why
tough
y'all ain't got no
childhood,
ancestors.
my mom and aunt have rebuilt their lives and found happiness. I'm not going to be the one to destroy all of that. After telling Jessica what I found, we promised never to speak of it again. But over the years, this secret has been eating away at me. I think
Cause
that's
you
why
need
I'm
to
sharing
tell
it now.
somebody.
It brings me some
Oh.
relief knowing that more people are aware of this story, even if, for now, I choose to remain anonymous. Maybe when my mom and aunt are gone, I'll find the courage to bring everything to light and honor the memory of the uncle I never knew.
What?
Hey,
Never mind.
horror spectator here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button
Hufflepuff?
and turn on
Horror
post
spectator.
notifications so
Oh,
you're
yeah.
always
Yes,
in the loop when...
definitely. Let's do that. Cause what the fuck?
That's fucked up.
Hell yeah.
That'd be a
Uncle
good ass movie
Baby.
though.
You always
That'd be a
say
good ass
that.
movie.
You say that every damn one we watch. That's a good ass movie though.
That'd be a good ass movie right there.
Some lifetime shit.
Lifetime shit for
Yup.
real. The Stolen Boy.
And them like that'd be good as shit.
The stolen baby. Baby buried on the land.
The stolen baby.
So now they don't gotta pay property taxes on the land because they didn't bury the child on the land. Now they ain't gotta
Mhm.
pay taxes.
What you saying?
I don't know why y'all be letting me carry on. Good Lord.
I'm gonna get another clip this time. It's gonna be I'm trying to get one of Bunny. Now we had
Huh?
me flip out. Clip.
What happened?
Got a clip of you flipping out.
A clip out, 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 clip
Huh?
out, clip
Oh, you hit the snap recently?
No.
She
No.
wants to. She wants to. She's waiting for the moment. We gonna give her the moment.
You gonna give me my moment, girl.
Time after time.
Oh,
Time
guess what I'm about to
after
do? Taz.
I got a double tomorrow. I got a double tomorrow.
God damn it. I can't do without you. It doesn't feel right. I don't get the enjoyment.
It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. You
Where are
just
you, Pop?
come back home.
Don't worry, I'm
No.
gonna catch your ass tomorrow.
We post 2
Now catch
videos
that
every
ass.
week. If you're really into this content, consider sharing it with your friends. It really helps us grow this community.
Grow this
Now,
community.
let's move on to the
Never.
second story.
Say something about it.
About 2 years ago, my life changed drastically. I stopped being the owner of a big hotel, and now I'm just surviving. Always looking over my shoulder, scared of my own family. Ever since I was a kid, I knew my life was different from other kids. My parents were never around, and I never had a real home. I grew up in a hotel room, and the staff were my family. Or at least,
Damn.
some of them were. When my parents met, they were poor. But they quickly got rich through the hotel business. By the time I was born, they were living a typical nouveau riche lifestyle. For a long time, I thought they were absent just because they were busy. They could only be with me on Christmas, my birthday, or on a rare special occasion. Even though they were my parents, they were practically strangers who would only show up with gifts on certain dates. Their business kept growing year after year. And while I was kept out of it because I was too young, over time, I started to notice that something wasn't right. When I was 15, the police got a warrant to search the entire hotel, top to bottom.
Mm-mm.
The weird part was that 3 days before the warrant was issued, we already knew it was coming. The hotel was in a frenzy, like they needed to hide something. The staff tried to act casual, but I wasn't dumb. I could tell something was going on. Up until that
You
moment,
dumb?
I had my suspicions that my parents weren't exactly good people, but that's all they were.
You think?
Suspicions. Sometimes I thought it was just resentment, because they'd never really been parents to me. But at that
Yeah, we're
point,
turning
I
them
had no doubt. Something
Turn
wrong
them
was
on.
going on in their hotels.
on.
That's when I decided I was going to find out what it was. I didn't believe they would harm their only son. So at the first opportunity I had, I confronted them. I saw a side of them I'd never seen before. My mom, cold and calculating. My dad, walking a fine line between coldness and violence. I was genuinely scared. I decided not to confront them again, but I was still determined to figure out what was going on. I started paying attention
Well, what did they
to the
say?
trusted
Nothing?
staff members.
Okay.
The
Right.
ones who had
They just
always
looked
been
at
like
you.
family to me over
Right.
the years.
It was cold.
Most of them didn't know what was going on in the
I
hotel.
mean, a little bit.
But they all
Right.
suspected it wasn't anything good.
That's what the daddy said.
My first guess was drug trafficking. I read everything about it, news articles, books, watched movies. I became obsessed with the idea that my parents were drug dealers. Then one day, I
You
saw a
think that's
girl
what it
walk
is?
into
Goddamn
the
power.
Whole time is human trafficking. He think
Goddamn.
it's drug. He think it's drug dealing. It's human trafficking. That's a hotel. A hotel. What you think?
Sir, your household is James St. Patrick, okay? There is some that work and that punani. Get with the program.
hotel, and she caught my attention. She was pretty, but that wasn't what stood out. She seemed completely out of place. She came in at night, escorted by one of the staff members, through a side door. She was dirty, her face and clothes smudged. This was a luxury hotel. The only reason for her to be there would be if they were hiring her or helping her. I hid, watching the scene. I wasn't allowed to wander the hotel at night, but something about her expression put me on alert.
How old are you?
She didn't look sad or
Right.
scared. Her face was blank, like she'd accepted whatever fate was waiting for her. The staff member asked her some questions I couldn't hear. She just nodded. Then they went up the emergency stairs. I made sure no one saw me and followed them. I had never been to that part of the hotel. The staff area had never interested
Sounded
me
more and
before.
more like
They went up to
human trafficking every second. He keep talking, don't he? Don't
Right, she just nodding. If she's disheveled and looking like the girl from damn Taken,
he? Right.
they
Or
pimping me out.
Right.
prostitution ring.
Right. Forcefully.
Like,
Pimp up, hold. Oh.
that
Never mind.
hotel is
the
a
fourth
brothel
floor
for the rich.
and left the stairs.
Or
Followed them. I had never
or
been to that.
they take the homeless and the wicked, the prostitution people, and they kill them trying to clean up the street. You know, you got people they clean up. They think they intoxicating the what they call it, polluting the street, and they be taking them off the street and killing them because ain't nobody gonna look for them.
They do.
They ain't got no home. They homeless or they prostitutes. Ain't nobody looking for none of them.
True.
Ain't nobody looking for none of that. Ooh,
Nobody looking for them.
you're probably right. It's probably like a slaughterhouse, but it's the front is a motel.
And then they sell them to the rich people and they watch them.
Yeah, black market style.
Like hostel.
Yeah. Ooh, bitch, it's a hospital.
It's a hostel.
We put that shit together like Scooby Doo. Go ahead, Daddy. You got that.
Part of the hotel.
Go ahead, play that
The
shit.
staff area had never interested me
It
before.
was kind of face for me
I
like,
went up to the fourth floor and left the stairs. By the time I reached the top, they were gone. Still, I thought it would be smart to hide in case someone showed up. My parents had eyes everywhere, even without cameras in the hotel. The staff were their cameras, almost like they didn't want any concrete evidence of what was going on. I was hiding behind some velvet curtains when one of the room doors opened and someone stepped out. I peeked, trying not to be
Shit out
noticed.
of me!
I saw the staff member standing in front of the room, but the girl wasn't there. I waited for maybe 30 minutes until the door opened again, and the staff member went inside. I knew this was my chance. I had to figure out what was going on. I crept up to the door and tried to listen. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but it sounded like they were negotiating something. Suddenly, I heard footsteps heading toward the
that
door.
pussy.
I bolted down the hallway, opened the stairwell door, and ran all the way back to my room, locking the door behind me. My heart was racing. Had someone seen me? I quickly threw on my pajamas, messed up the bed, and got under the covers. If anyone came looking for me, it would seem like I'd been asleep. I was right. Not even 10 minutes later, the same staff member knocked on my door. I let him knock 3 times before opening it, trying to look as sleepy as I could. When he saw me, he let out a sigh of relief. He apologized for disturbing me, said he just wanted to make sure everything was all right. For over a month, I
Said, "I
acted
thought I
as
saw-
discreetly as possible.
I thought I saw that nigga. Did I see?
Did I see that little nigga? Oh, okay, he sleep.
I know I seen that little.
You know that little nigga that looked down and yeah, I know that little nigga. I think I just saw him.
I swear I see that nigga. Let me go check.
For over a month, I acted as discreetly as possible. I knew they were keeping an eye on me. I was friendly with the staff, stayed in my room at night, didn't ask any questions. When I felt safe enough to start investigating again, I couldn't find anything. For months, nothing seemed suspicious, and over time I started to forget about that night. I convinced myself I hadn't seen anything wrong. Maybe they had been helping the girl. There were plenty of possible explanations, not all of them bad. Then, about 2 years ago, on my 22nd birthday, everything changed. I wanted to celebrate with my friends and didn't want the hotel to have any connection to that night. All I wanted was a peaceful evening at a bar with people I cared about. Everything went as planned, but when I got back to the hotel around 4 a.m., something stopped me in my tracks. I saw a car discreetly pull up to the side of the building. 5 girls got out. The scene was eerily familiar. They looked just like the
5
girl
of
I'd
them
seen
hoes.
years ago, out of place, dirty, like they had just been taken off the streets. But there was more. They were all dressed identically, in simple, white dresses, even though it was February and the cold was biting. The sight
they
was
in the car?
disturbing, almost surreal.
Huh?
This is a motherfucking sacrifice.
Yeah, into the cold. They sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Like you
why they
said,
so rich.
you're right. They clean up these streets with these homeless women, cleaning them, even though they all disheveled and shit, they all matching and right or whatnot. This is the goddamn Scientology. This is goddamn Illuminati.
Not the
It's access
Scientology. Not the
Y'all better
Scientology.
look.
Girl. Ain't nobody looking for the women. They didn't either ran away, they was orphans, homeless, whatever, pimped out.
And they snatched them off the street, trying to clean it up and serve it for Satan himself.
Not second.
Mm.
And that's why they got all that money in hotels.
Yeah,
They doing seances and shit. Having coke shit.
Coke shit.
Mm.
They doing
Mm.
coke shit.
Mm. Oh, sorry. Not
And
coke.
then
anyone
selling them
biting.
off to the rich people.
The sight was disturbing,
They can pull
almost
murder.
surreal.
Hold on.
In the cold, they were all dressed identically, in simple, white dresses, even though it was February and the cold was biting. The sight was disturbing, almost
I'm sorry,
surreal.
I missed something. I was like, wait a minute.
Without anyone noticing, I decided to follow them. What I witnessed played out like a sinister cycle. Just like before, they were escorted by hotel staff, each to different floors and eventually to separate rooms. In some cases, they left the rooms minutes later and switched. The pattern became obvious, and with it, the certainty that something illegal was happening. 2 possibilities came to mind. Either they were prostitutes, or they were being sold. I knew I couldn't just go to the police empty-handed. I needed proof. I pulled out my phone and, carefully, snapped a few pictures. But that wasn't going to be enough. I needed to know who the clients were, or what exactly was happening.
So you gonna tell on your
I
parents?
went to the reception and caused a small scene,
They paid attention
making
to
a
that.
fake complaint about my room. While the staff tried to sort things out, I used the distraction to take pictures of the guest lists. I glanced quickly at the names, and while I knew that if they were involved in anything illegal, they probably wouldn't use their real names, a disturbing pattern jumped out at me. All the guests were men. How had I never noticed that before? I couldn't take it anymore.
Nobody said they run the
I
brothel.
decided I had to go to the police.
Yep.
I went up to my
That's
room
all
to get
Jones
ready,
right there.
and just as I was about to leave,
John
someone
ass
started
nigga.
pounding frantically on my door.
That's some John ass niggas.
This a John ass nigga for me.
This is a list of John niggas. That's crazy. Damn you, fine, babe. I mean, okay, back to the okay. I'm
I cannot.
Okay.
My heart raced. I
It
opened the
ain't your
door,
booty.
and
It's
one of
your
the
booty.
staff members rushed in, slamming it shut behind her. She was like a mother to me. She'd played with me as a kid,
Hold on, because I
read me
was not paying attention.
and one of the staff members rushed in, slamming it shut behind her. She was like a mother to me. She'd played with me as a kid, read me stories, and was the one I went to if I ever needed anything. She was relieved to see me in the room and quickly told me she had overheard some of the hotel staff talking with my parents. The order had been given to silence me. A wave of panic washed over me. Silence me?
Silence him?
Oh, out on their own motherfucking son.
I,
This is a
I
lifetime
told
movie.
you.
This is a motherfucking lifetime movie.
I told you, and I was like, he gonna just tell on his parents?
That's
Is
why
that
he
what
should
you trying
just
to
shut his
silence
mouth.
Mm.
He should
Mm.
have died.
Mm.
Well, he
Rather
wrote this
like
letter,
them
so I
again.
guess he didn't die.
Either you take this hotel and you leave out the country, or it's off with your head.
Silence
Oh my
him.
God. That's
What did that
crazy.
mean?
Your own
Washed
parents.
over
I
me.
guess they say they brought you in. They can
Silence
take
me.
you out.
A wave of
I
panic
mean, they
washed
say
over
that
me.
all the time.
Silence me? What did that mean? I didn't need to ask. The look in her eyes said it all. I knew my life was in danger. She helped me escape through the back of the hotel, and I ran straight to the police. I explained everything, handed over the photos, and told them what I knew. An FBI investigator was immediately called in, and I was placed in the witness protection program. That's when I found out the police had been investigating my parents for years. They knew my parents were involved in human trafficking, but they never had enough solid evidence to arrest.
I told you. I fucking said that shit. Whole time he thought it was drugs. It's human trafficking. You working? It's a fucking hotel.
That's a fucking hostile shit.
Bitch.
Telling that
Human
punani.
trafficking.
That's good shit that he went to the cops though, cause that would have scared the hell out of me into silence. No, for
Yeah.
real, I would have said nothing.
I did. I'm
And it's
gone.
the fact that they don't want to stop. They gonna silence their own son just to keep going.
Right,
Mm.
that's what's really crazy.
I know the police
That,
was like, "Thank you, they had a child," or he reached out, or something
yeah.
like just needed
Because he
some
did say,
evidence or something just to get in there. Because I'm sure they can tell who's undercover and who's not. I'm pretty sure they had a
Yeah,
tight list.
no, they know.
It was a tight list.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
You
He
had to
did
get
say
it.
that when he grown up, they didn't pay attention to him. So it makes sense.
right. Right. They wasn't no family. They was strangers. They should have treated him
The damn
better.
staff lady's more of a mother to him than his own damn
And
mama.
that's why she let his ass go. And the whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. I was gonna say the whole operation.
Arrest them. Those girls were being sold as brides, but they never had enough solid evidence to arrest them.
Oh no.
Those girls were being sold as brides, many of them still minors. As for the
Ah!
staff member who helped me, I never saw her again. She disappeared without a trace.
Oh, they fucking murdered her.
Took her out.
Murdered
They
this
silenced
poor
her.
lady.
They
Rest in
silenced
peace,
her.
the homie. Oh my.
She
They
saved
silenced
him.
that lady.
She sacrificed her life for that boy because she helped
So,
him
and
and
you
went
know
She
what?
back.
stood out for
Why the hell did
something.
she stay? She should have left too.
Well, maybe she was
Yeah.
too deep into it, and I would rather be taken out than be caught with it, and then I'm locked up for the rest of my life. Just go on. What Bunny say? Just take me out now.
Mm,
Just take me the fuck out.
Because if that lady been taking care of him since he's
mm.
been born, she's probably been there before all that, before he
Yeah.
even knew all that was going on.
He knew
That's
to this shit.
Consuela. That was Consuela. No, I stay, I stay.
I
She probably had the best
say.
cleaning solution. She had the best cleaning
No, no.
solution. No, I stay, I stay.
Child.
Mm-mm. Okay,
Okay.
let's
This is
finish
great.
it. I like this. Okay, let's
Who
finish this
asked
one.
this person? Oh, that's
Finish this
right.
one. You picked him. Okay, but
Okay,
go. Let's finish. We got like a couple seconds left with this one.
Trace, and I knew it was my fault.
Hold on.
She disappeared without a trace, and I knew it was my fault. Deep down,
no.
I know my parents got to her, and
Yeah.
that her fate wasn't any better than the girls who walked into that hotel. For the
Damn.
past 2 years, I've been living like this. On the run, in hiding, without a normal life.
Mm.
Then again, I never really had a normal life. To this day, the police still haven't been able to convict them. But I know it's
Damn.
only a matter of time. They're going to get what they deserve.
Damn.
They can't get in there. They can't get in there.
That's
They got
crazy
that
as
shit
hell.
tight lit.
They know what the fuck they doing. That's fucked up.
See, if he was able to stay like a little bit longer without getting caught and shit like that, they probably got him.
He probably could have played
He's
it
the closest
smarter.
they could have got.
Yeah, he could have definitely played it smarter. Maybe taking
Mm-hmm.
pictures, getting in, cause he was living there, so he could have. Yeah, but that's like he not a police officer, so he is a little boy or however old he was.
Yeah.
And then they still couldn't do nothing. Not even with the photos.
That's
No
crazy.
evidence and nothing.
Yeah, I don't
Damn.
know. Maybe if he had more of it, then one or two pictures is not really gonna do much, I guess.
Exactly.
And there's no cameras there.
Cold.
There are secrets that cling to the walls of a house, like shadows that won't go away, no matter how
Yeah, I
hard
like
you
this
try to
guy.
ignore them.
Yeah, he's good.
I grew up in a place where silence was constant. Not the comfortable kind, like a family at peace, but the kind of silence that hides things. The kind of silence that makes the air heavy, that leaves holes in conversations, in memories. My dad was always a man of few words, but he had a tendency to be violent and controlling. And my mom felt like a ghost wandering around the house. She did everything like an automaton, cleaning, cooking, staring into nothing. She barely spoke to anyone. I was too young to understand that something was seriously wrong, and for me, it felt almost natural. The farm I grew up on was
Being born
isolated,
into it, you don't know no
surrounded
better.
by dry fields and trees that seemed to bend under the weight of the wind and time. The closest houses were miles away, and we rarely had visitors. I was homeschooled, and I had just one teacher, a strict old woman, super religious. The only times I left the house and saw other people were on Sunday mornings for church. The only constant sound in the house was the creaking of the wooden floors and, every now and then, the wind coming through the drafty windows. I was used to that loneliness. Truth is, I never asked much about the past, about my family's history. No one had ever taught me to be curious. Or rather, if I ever showed any curiosity, I was immediately punished and called a sinner and a snoop.
Oh
My
damn.
parents never talked about anything, especially not the years before I was born. And honestly, I didn't have a reason to ask. Until the day I accidentally found a box in the attic. I was 17 when I found it. I was up in the attic looking for some tools for my dad. I rarely had permission to go up there, but that day, he had ordered me to help him with some repairs. The
Not
attic was
ordered.
a place I wasn't familiar with. I had probably only been there twice in my whole life. It was dark, damp, with the smell of mold clinging to the walls.
Ew.
There were no windows, just a weak light bulb swinging from the ceiling. That day, I tripped and bumped right into a door I had never noticed before, almost hidden in the shadows at the back of the attic. A small wooden door, the paint peeling off. The lock was rusted, and with a little shove, the door gave way. I didn't intend to snoop, I just wanted to find my dad's tools. On the other side was a small compartment.
Really? You
like a
wouldn't have said
closet.
that.
In the middle, there was a single box. When I opened it, the smell of mold got stronger, mixed with something else I couldn't quite identify. Inside were letters, old photographs, loose papers, and a lock of hair. And that was the moment my world started to crumble. I found out something terrible, but the shock was so intense that it woke me from that zombie-like state I had been raised to live in. I picked up one of the photographs first. It was my mom, younger, holding a baby. A baby with a strange appearance, wrinkled skin, oversized eyes, deformed hands. What scared me most wasn't the child itself, but my mom's expression. She wasn't smiling. I think she was crying. Her face was filled with exhaustion and something else. Something I couldn't define. My dad was next to her, but he wasn't looking at the camera or at the child. He was staring off into the distance, as if trying to escape that reality. I flipped through more photos and started noticing a pattern. The child was in every one of them, but never outside the house. Always indoors, in the shadows, or in the backyard, but never in public, never with visitors, never out in the open, except
Not
in the
the
garden.
boy.
Who was
Huh?
Not the boy living in the walls.
The people under the stairs.
The people under the
It's
stick.
the fucking people under the stairs.
Not that motherfucker in the basement in the attic somewhere. Good Lord, that nigga in the house somewhere still alive.
Goddamn Goonies in this bitch.
Bro, I got a whole sibling, don't even know about it.
No, freaky sibling. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, Child.
that
or,
child?
or, huh? What's up, babe?
No, you had something to say. You had said something.
They didn't got rid of that child. And then he came along. They said, okay, this is the perfect one. We're going to
Mm.
just leave it right there.
Oh, yep. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that something happened, or
They murked the damn baby like that first
yeah.
story.
Mm.
Because why is there so much mold?
Mm. Mo.
Why so much mold in that room now?
I don't
And then
know.
the hair. Why they need to keep
Why
all of
the
that?
baby hair in there? If y'all got rid of the baby, why the hair in there?
Why
Y'all
Keith
cloned
said,
her?
why you still got pictures and shit anyway? If you didn't want it, why you still got memorabilia of it?
Behind a wall.
that part.
So you're trying to keep it safe.
Or that motherfucker behind
Yeah,
that
behind
wall.
a locked door for ages at this point.
That was painted over.
That
Mm.
oh, maybe it's buried in there. That's why it smell like that. He don't
Ah,
know that stick.
Goddamn Hellraiser. Oh, hell.
Shit. Okay, hit play. My bad.
No one had ever told me about another child. Who was that child? No one had ever told me about another child. Then I saw the letters. The first ones were brief, exchanges between my mom and someone she called
shit that ain't got
Sis.
nothing to do with his ass.
I knew I had an aunt, but I had never met her. They talked about something I couldn't fully understand, but it made me uneasy. It was clear that the child was the result of something wrong, something that shouldn't have happened. One of the letters, almost torn in half, made my heart stop for a moment. My aunt was writing to my mom, begging her to give her the child. I found out that the baby had some kind of illness, and that he was the result of an affair between my dad and my aunt. My head was spinning. My dad had cheated on my mom with her own sister. The child, my half-brother, was born with deformities. But that didn't explain what I was seeing. It didn't explain why the child had never been mentioned, never seen. I kept digging through the letters and found some medical record. Among the doctor's reports were vague diagnoses and treatments. The child had a rare genetic condition, something that made his body develop irregularly. In his early years, he had constant episodes, screams that echoed through the house, something my mom cryptically mentioned in the letters, saying he was always screaming like an animal. Supposedly, that's why they kept him isolated, locked away, kept far from everything and everyone, like a stain they didn't want the world to see. But what haunted me the most was realizing that, according to a date in a letter, he had lived in the attic until I was 5 years old. My half-brother, locked in that room, like a secret that should never be revealed. The few times they took him outside, to the garden, were brief moments, always at night. We had lived in the same house for 5 years and I never noticed.
Damn.
That bit of truth left me devastated.
Damn.
But then, something happened. He disappeared from the letters. The last letters I found were vague, evasive. "He's not suffering anymore," said one. "It's over," said another. But there was no record of how. There was no death certificate, no explanation for what had happened. Just a single sentence on a piece of paper, yellowed with time. "He's buried in the garden, as we agreed." Panic started to set in. They buried him in the garden. There was a part of the yard that had always seemed different, where the soil never seemed firm, where the grass grew unevenly. I was little at the time, maybe 5 years old, like the date in the letter said. I didn't remember anything concrete, but there was something, a blurry memory of a night when I woke up to the sound of hushed voices in the garden, of footsteps sneaking down the hallway, of the front door opening and closing. After that, everything got strange. My mom became even more distant, my dad more withdrawn. Now it all made sense. That brother of mine I never knew, born out of a dirty secret, kept prisoner, and then killed. I didn't know if he died from illness, starvation, or something else. But I knew my parents had buried his body in the garden. No records, no trace. And there, in the attic, with the letters in my hands and the photographs scattered around me, I realized the truth. My parents were monsters. They created a child out of betrayal, hid him from the world. And when it was no longer convenient, they got rid of him like he was a burden. At that moment, I knew I couldn't stay there anymore. That house was rotten to its core. I ran away a year later. I prepared everything in secret and played the lie. I waited for the right time, for an opportunity, and one night, without looking back, I vanished. Since then, I've never returned. Never seen them again. They never looked for me either. It's been over 30 years. My parents are probably gone by now. I don't know what happened to the farm, and I don't want to know. Sometimes I wonder if running away was the freedom I needed, or if I inherited something from them. Something dark that runs in my blood. Because no matter
You
how
had to get
hard I
out.
try to
What you
forget,
mean?
that house still
No,
haunts me.
basically what he's
And the
saying, they
silence
ran
inside me,
away from
it
taking
never...
care of that child. Because they really could have sent that child to my sister. She asked for the
I get what they saying, but so you had no choice regardless. They've done
yeah.
murked your half brother. You had all right to leave.
Right.
Don't think that that's running in your
Shit.
family. No, you had all right.
You could have been next. God damn it.
Exactly. They gonna find out you got a lazy ass eye. They gonna murk your ass next. You be buried next to little Timmy. Them.
No, they found out that you know about what they did. You
You're gonna
gone.
be silent.
It's the motherfucking it's the little Timmy. Got a lazy eye to get burnt. God.
Well, that was a good one. That was a good one. We're gonna go ahead and stop it here for that one. I'm gonna stop that
Mhm.
recording and start it up again. Give me 1 second.
Take time. I'm going downstairs real quick. I need to get ice.
All
Ah!
right.
It's starting to make me a little tired. Damn boys.
Well, no, he's good though.